spent so much time in Exodus. It's time we have a palate cleanser. How about we go to the New Testament? Welcome to Fishcracker Faith, where faith is bite sized. There's this weird episode with Jesus and a fig tree that just feels out of place. I mean, to be fair, there are many stories with Jesus that are weird at first glance. So let me set the scene. Jesus enters Jerusalem on a donkey, so another point for the weird, comes in and makes a scene in the temple by throwing out all the vendors inside. So, typical Jesus. So here's the weird part. He goes out of the city and finds a fig tree and thinks, I want some figs. So he walks towards the tree but finds no fruit. And so he curses the fig tree. In the Gospel of Matthew, the tree immediately shrivels up. Weird. And now the withering tree is not the story that I want to talk about. But I need to explain what it means before I get to my main point. Now, trees in the Bible are usually associated with people or kingdoms. Israel is represented in the Bible as a fig tree. Now, remember when Jesus came to the temple and raged over the Pharisees for making the temple a den of thieves? Load that thought in this story. If the tree is Israel and Jesus condemns the Pharisees who were running the temple in Jerusalem, then we're seeing Jesus pass judgment on Israel as a whole. How is Jesus judging Israel, you ask? He came to see if it was bearing fruit. And just as the fig tree had only leaves and no fruit, so did Israel have no fruit. What was the fruit that Jesus was expecting? All throughout the Bible, God always desired love from his chosen people. And the Israelites showed their love for God through obedience to the Torah. Obedience to the commandments showed compassion to the neighbor, the alien, the slave, and even women, which is controversial and story for another time. Obedience showed devotion to God in worship. So how did the Israelites at the time of Jesus follow the Torah? Well, they had a love for God, but it was rigid. And their love for neighbor was almost non-existent in many of the leaders. Therefore, there was no fruit. Jesus passes judgment on the tree by saying, "May you never bear fruit again." And the tree withers. And if the tree is Israel, then he basically condemned the kingdom of Israel to destruction. The foreshadowing is strong in this instance. Now, I want us to focus on the leaves. If the fruit is obedience to the Torah, what are the leaves? We know that leaves help in the growth of a plant, really to keep it alive because it's a building block for glucose. In the same way, the leaves should be what helps Israel bear the fruit of obeying the commandments. Well, where else to look but the temple? It's the temple that facilitates worship in Jewish life. And it's the Pharisees who teach the Torah to the Jews. It's from the religious leaders where they get the practices that deepen their faith so as to bear fruit. So it's the temple. The leaves are the temple. So when Jesus was passing judgment to Israel, he was passing judgment on the temple, which encapsulates all the practices of the Jewish faith. Jesus saw the leaves, but no fruit. Jesus saw the devotion and the commitment to follow the Torah, but no actual fruit of following the Torah. Now, some of us would walk away and think that Jesus was condemning religion or religious practices in particular. The tree withered because it only had leaves, and Israel deserved destruction because it only cared about religious practices. Therefore, we don't need religion. Religion isn't important because the fruit is more important to Jesus. But take note, Jesus doesn't condemn the tree because it had leaves. Jesus condemned the tree because it had leaves but no fruit. We're right to think that Jesus condemned Israel because it only cared about religious practices. But Jesus doesn't condemn their devotions at all, just that it didn't bear fruit. Here's my thought. If Jesus was condemning the tree for having leaves, how would Jesus expect that the tree will have fruit to begin with? Actually, let's have a thought experiment. Can you imagine a tree without leaves bearing fruit? I can't. It's probably possible for a tree without leaves to bear fruit. But what kind of fruit can I expect from that tree? Will it taste good? Will it be large? Will it pass the standards of what is good to eat? In all honesty, I don't think it would taste good or be large or pass the standards at all. Now, what if a tree with leaves bore fruit? What type of fruit will it bear? If anything, probably better than the tree without fruit. And so I think with our faith, we can try to bear fruit, to obey the Lord and His commands without religious practices. But what kind of fruit will I bear? What kind of faith will I have? Maybe not as plump or juicy as it could be. Heck, I might feel like my faith is not enough. But at the same time, if all I had were leaves, if all I had were religious practices, sacramentals, devotionals, and all the bells and whistles, but I did not bear fruit, I did not have faith, or I did not put my faith into practice, then I'm just wasting my time. I'm not doing what I am made to do. I am not loving or being an image of God or bearing fruit. Now, finally, if I had leaves that helped bore fruit, exactly. I can't tell you how much of prayer, the rosary, Bible reading, adoration, and regular attending of the sacraments have helped me grow into a more loving and understanding person. So don't discount the leaves. Don't discount the religious practices. But don't forget to put those practices to good use. Don't forget to bear fruit. Because if you want to be who you were made to be, use the leaves to bear fruits. And the Israelites showed their love for God through obedience to the Torah.